If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's the fact that there's a lot of packs for The Sims 4, 73 to be precise. So I've decided to do a definite ranking of every single pack for The Sims 4 because some of these are a little bit of a waste of money and some of them are definitely worth it. So whether you need advice on which pack to pick up when the next sale rolls around, or if you're just here to listen along to my takes on each pack, let's get started. Even though the final score is obviously going to be personal to what I think about each pack, I do want to make a point of talking about the weaknesses and strong points for all the packs so you can kind of make up your own mind. So for the Sims 4 base game, I'm going to put it up here in Love It. It's definitely not perfect. There's a lot of things in these packs that definitely could have been put into the base game rather than into a pack. But in general, I really do love the Sims 4. Obviously, I wouldn't have a whole entire YouTube channel dedicated to the game. So there's 15 expansion packs and we're about to give them all a rating. These ones are the most expensive and contain the most content. So like an extra world, gameplay, create sim items and build and buy items. They go for around $40 or 40 euros depending on where you are. And that's at full price. There is a sale going on at the moment. It did take me quite a long time to make this one, so it is towards the end of the sale, but there is sales all through the year, so I'm sure that if you don't get this one, you can probably catch the next one. So Get to Work obviously is all about bringing more careers to The Sims 4. We got the medical, detective and scientific career paths. Honestly, I found that these are quite well implemented. I really like the fact that it gives you smaller missions to do during your day rather than just, you know, a boring rabbit hole. And you can also build your own retail business. But they could have added some cross-pack gameplay. For example, when they brought out Dine Out, we could have had maybe the career options be a chef or a waiter. I do think it's a shame that the world that we got with this one was so small. Magnolia Promenade only has 3 lots, and that's kind of hard to justify, I think, for an expansion pack. I'm not particularly keen on most of the casts in this one. And build mode 2, obviously we have a lot of items around the sort of work theme. It is a pretty solid pack if you're starting to buy some expansion packs for The Sims 4, but also there's so many things that I think should have been implemented in this one. I think I'm going to put it in Like It. Cats and dogs is kind of the Sims 3 equivalent of pets, although in the Sims 3 pets we did get a lot more animals than just cats and dogs. I do like this pack because obviously it allows you to have pets in the game, which is really nice. It's a little annoying that we can't control our pets. I know in previous games like The Sims 3 we were able to actually play them as you would play a sim. I do like the fact that you can be a vet and own your own clinic in this one as well. The human created sim items that we got in this pack is probably one of my least favourites out of all of the packs. It's pretty horrendous and I never normally use it. I think this should be more of a general pet pack where we got things like hamsters and stuff like that. So I think I will put it up here in Like It with Get to Work. Okay, so next we have Get Famous, which brings in the career of acting. It's quite a major part of the pack. And again, it's quite well implemented, but I do think that there should have been more than one career in this pack. It's about getting famous, so I feel like we could have had things like magicians or singers or more musical themed things like maybe a band. If there is a celebrity that spawns on a public lot, it is super annoying because it does kind of cause just pure social chaos. Everybody stops what they're doing and goes to fangirl around the celebrity, and it's a little bit unrealistic. I do like the reputation system in this one though, and how that can kind of impact your Sims interactions. And the world could have been a little bit bigger as well. We don't have very many lots really to play with. So I'm going to put it up here in mid. Next up we have City Living, and with City Living we got apartments, we got the world of San Myshuno, which is honestly one of my favourite worlds in The Sims 4. I really like the cultural aspects that were brought into this one, and I really like some of the more cultural events we have, like the Spice Market. We get a lot of CAS items in this one, and I really do like the fact that it's very culturally diverse, and we did get a whole lot of build items in this too. I do really like City Living, so I think I'm going to put it up here in Love It. So obviously with seasons we have the addition of weather and holidays as well, and I do really like the fact that you can customize the holidays and kind of make up your own in the calendar. That's a really fun feature. I feel like it's a very well done pack overall. I know that there's a lot of debate over whether weather should be in the base game or not, although I do understand that it's not just weather, there's a lot of things, you know, there's the celebration side of it all, so I'm a little bit mixed on that. As it's an expansion pack, it's kind of strange that we don't have a world for it. It would have been really cool to see like a seasons based world, maybe with lots that change depending on what season it is, with different activities like a water park in the summer and like a market in the winter. But these are kind of my ideas and propositions for the pack that could have been, but it doesn't make it an incomplete pack altogether. So I think I'm going to put seasons up in Love It. So coming on to cottage living next. I absolutely love this pack. This is one of the only packs that I've gotten super hyped about. I'm obviously a little bit biased because this pack is based on the UK and I'm English, but I just feel like in terms of what they were trying to do and what they actually provided, definitely matched up. This was a really well executed pack. We get really nice cozy activities like making jam, cross stitch, keeping chickens and cows and things like that. The lactose intolerant trait, I see what they were trying to do there, and I know that it is quite a funny thing to have when your Sims consume milky products. You know, there's repercussions, but I feel like this could have been implemented in a sub trait system in CAS where we have more food preferences, maybe in the likes and dislikes. Me being lactose intolerant, I know that it isn't a personality trait. I don't consider it to be one of my 3 core personality traits, so it's a little bit of a shame to waste one of those slots on lactose intolerance. But other than that, I really like every single feature in this pack. The CAS is great, the build buy items are absolutely adorable. I would say unless cottagecore is really definitely not your vibe and you actively dislike it, maybe you should dodge this one, but honestly, if not, I really think this is one of the best expansion packs that you can get. So I'm going to put cottage living up in love it. Surprise. Next up we have Discover University. I feel like this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really do like this pack, although one major problem that I do have with it is the fact that classes are rabbit holes. I feel like there should have been some sort of refresh to this pack when we got the high school years expansion pack. The world is pretty good. I do like the fact that it's quite based on old universities like Oxford, and then the technical university is more modern. The Sims do get interesting homework assignments. They can sometimes bring back a presentation board and do a fake presentation to train on other Sims, but that's about all of the university actual gameplay that we get. The dorms can be quite annoying for a lot of players. If you can install mods, once again, I definitely recommend installing the personal objects mod, which allows you to claim your own objects so other Sims won't autonomously use them. The CAS and build buy on this is pretty solid too, nothing amazing though. So I'm going to put Discover University up here and like it. Okay, so next we have Snowy Escape. I think that this is a super interesting kit, and I like the fact that it's based on Japan and Japanese culture. I like this world overall. I do really enjoy playing with this pack, and the fact that we got more winter sport theme activities. I feel like little things like this ski lift and things like that should be functional though. Create a Sim is pretty solid in this one, and it does contain a lot of items that I use a lot, and build buy objects definitely fit the theme really well. There's a lot of solid items in there too. So for Snowy Escape, I'm going to come up here and put it in like it. Next up we have the Horse Ranch pack. It's very thematic like cottage living. Talking of, I really love the fact that they added in lore with those 2 packs between Agnes Crumplebottom and Roberto Crinkletop. I actually recently did a deep dive into Agnes Crumplebottom's history, so if you're interested in that, definitely check that video out. I really enjoy the nectar making feature in this one. Obviously we have the addition of horses as well. I'm not a massive horse player, and the world is very pretty, although I do feel like we could have had more involved gameplay things in the map, maybe like a market or something, or maybe some sort of community cook-off, and in that respect it's definitely much less involved than cottage living. And obviously the Create a Sim items are very themed. If you like that sort of style, this pack is great for that. The build buy items are pretty good. I feel like it was pretty well executed, just like cottage living. I'm not a particularly massive fan of the whole Midwestern theme, so I guess this one is a little bit more tailored to people who like that, but to be fair to it, it's a well executed theme, so I think I'm going to come and put it up here in like it. Next up we have Growing Together, and to be honest, I really do like this pack. The Create a Sim is really good and well rounded, and I feel like it's got a good balance for male and female clothes, which isn't always the case in these packs. The one major qualm that I do have with this is the fact that moles were brought into the game, which is fantastic. I have a lot of moles on me, but I do think it's a little strange to put a skin detail behind a paywall, especially given the fact that we got an SDX drop with vitiligo. Obviously the more representation the better, but I feel like vitiligo is much rarer than moles. Maybe add all of those things to the base game and not put more common things behind a paywall. Build buy's got some really good family oriented objects as well, a lot of which are functional. Something that really stands out to me about this one is the family dynamics. Now I use this for so much storytelling in my save file. It's absolutely perfect for that. I do think we should have had some more residential lots in this one, but overall the gameplay is actually really fun, and I don't see myself playing without this Growing Together pack. So I think I'm going to add it up here in love it. I do really like this pack. I know that this is looking a little top heavy, but don't worry, there's a lot of things are going to come into these categories very soon. Next up, we have island living. First of all, obviously the world is very, very pretty. Unfortunately, it does feel a little bit surface level though. There was no lore added into this one. I think it could have been pretty interesting to have some kind of backstory to the island. We did get some cool features like jet skiing, but I feel like this could have maybe been like a skill system. We could have had some sort of area where the Sims could maybe train and do tricks and things like that, like we do in Snowy Escape. I do enjoy the conservationist side of this pack, but I feel like it could have been implemented a little bit deeper. We do also have mermaids in this pack. I don't find them very interesting. In The Sims 3, you could actually follow your Sims underwater when they went snorkeling, and it was this whole kind of underwater magical experience, which was really cool. This pack does have some really, really pretty build buy items. Very wood and nature themed. I do remember feeling a little bit disappointed with the fact that everything kind of felt very surface level with this one, although the world is gorgeous and we do have some very nice CAS and build buy items. But I feel like with an expansion pack you kind of expect a little more, so I'm going to put this one in mid. Okay, so next up we have Get Together. I do really enjoy the world of Windenburg. I think it's one of the worlds that I use the most. Overall, this pack does feel a little bit dated. It feels very stuck in the 2010s, whether that be through the CAS, although it's got some items that are pretty usable still today. I did notice the cast was quite imbalanced on this one. There's a lot more things for females than there is for male Sims. I feel like the theme on this one is a little bit all over the place. My favourite thing about this pack is the clubs feature. I don't particularly like the clubs that were shipped with the pack, but I feel like there's so much potential and some really good storytelling elements there. I do think the fact that cafes only come with Get Together is a little strange. I feel like that should be base game. I feel like this is a widely loved pack and I can see why, but I do feel like the whole 2010 vibe, the fact that it's so anchored in that time, does kind of ruin it a little bit for me. I'm going to put it up here in like it. So next we have high school years. I'm kind of mixed about this pack. Initially, I do really like the fact that the school is non-rabbit hole. We can actually see what goes on in the classrooms. And I will admit that the lack of interactions when your Sim is actually in class is very disappointing. As a side note, I definitely don't like the high school building that was shipped with the pack. But once you make it over, I feel like you can have quite a nice experience at school. The sports pitch behind the school is completely unusable and unfunctional, which is a real shame. The social bunny app that was brought in with this one is pretty useless. I enjoy the whole thrifting side of things, but I don't agree with the whole trend making mechanic in the game. The idea for some clothes to be out and some clothes to be in is kind of a sad reality of our society today, so I don't really enjoy having that in The Sims. You can sell looks for like almost 1 million simoleons and people will buy it, which is a little bit crazy. There does seem to be a lot more choice for decoration and even in CAS for female Sims and male Sims, which is a little bit annoying. And the pier is a little bit disappointing. All of the rides are rabbit holes, so you only ever see your Sim going to and from the rabbit holes, which isn't really a fun element of gameplay for me. Overall, I do like this pack and I do like the fact that the high school isn't a rabbit hole. I feel like it needs a lot of tweaking and maybe some mods to fix, which isn't great, but I do actually play with this pack quite a lot and I enjoy sending my teens to school and having them have little stories in between classes, you know, with each other. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in like it. I do think it needs improvement. Now, the reason I'm not putting it in the category needs improvement is because I feel like there are packs that need actual improvement to be playable, but I think high school years doesn't necessarily fall into that category. It's getting dark quite quickly, so sorry if the light is changing. So next up we have eco lifestyle. So this pack is based around environmental factors and you can either have a very polluted atmosphere or you can work on it to be a little bit more eco-friendly. There's a lot of crafting hobbies that were brought into this one too. We also have neighbourhood action plans, which I think are very dreadfully implemented. I think that the neighbourhood action plans should have been customizable like the clubs are and have some sort of system where you decide what the different options are and then have the community vote. I don't personally like having to balance out pollution in my game. I feel like it's a little too real and a little bit depressing, but it is a cool concept if you do like that kind of challenge. It's not an inherently bad feature. I don't understand why we didn't get a new death type like death from breathing in too much pollution. We have way more creative and kind of left field death types like the mold one in For Rent, but pollution seems way more dangerous to me, so this was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I think the CAS is quite cool. I like the small details like the piercings, for example, although I do feel like there are too many items for female Sims rather than male Sims once again. Despite the fact that I kind of like the principles behind this one and I like the CAS and build buy, I really don't find myself playing with it a lot, so I'm going to put it down here in mid. So next up we have the last expansion pack, which is For Rent. The world has a very interesting vibe. I like the fact that it's kind of based on Thailand and Vietnam. I think the CAS is pretty good on this one and there's a lot of really interesting interesting build buy objects in this one. Although it fits the theme really well, I feel like there's a lot more versatile objects in this one too, which doesn't make it too pigeonholed into just that theme. It has a really good food variety. I really like the fact that it's added more Asian food into the game, and small appliances like a kettle and a rice cooker, which for me in my gameplays are now complete must-haves. Although there are a lot of things that I could criticise about this pack too. I will say that I was really disappointed to see that only a few of the market stalls were actually functional. The marketplace is very quiet and dead, and this is just not true to reality, because we've all seen the food markets in those countries and they're always very lively and bustling and fun. The more kind of permanent world elements are actually really disappointing. Like the temple and the tiger sanctuary are just rabbit holes. I feel like that was a little bit of a cop-out. We could have had like a beautiful temple with actual real objects that your sim could go and look at. I feel like sometimes the Sims team forgets that we're sat at our computers and we're just watching a building from the outside, and the game is meant to entertain us as a player and not entertain the sim theoretically in the game. So that is a little bit of a disappointment. I really like the amount of traits that we got with this one. I think they're all really good, apart from the child of the village one, which is a little bit restricted. I feel like the renting side could have been integrated into city living as an update, and this pack could have just been completely about Thailand and Vietnam, just like Snowy Escape was for the Japanese theme, with its own hobbies instead of it being like a piggyback for renting. There's a lot for them to fix on this one, unfortunately. Like there's really big loopholes, like a tenant can also be the landlord and pay themselves rent, and you can make a lot of money doing that, and it's the only pack that causes my computer to crash. I'm gonna go ahead and put for rent in needs improvement for now. So next we're gonna be ranking the game packs. The game packs normally retail at full price at around $20 or 20 euros. First of all, we have Outdoor Retreat. So Outdoor Retreat comes with this new destination world that isn't actually habitable by your Sims. The actual world feels a little bit empty, although I really do enjoy the concept of camping. I love forests and woods and things like that, and outdoor activities, but I think Granite Falls could have done with some more points of interest. There's nothing really to explore in the world. I think the cast is pretty good on this one. I feel like it really fit the theme, and there's also a lot of versatile items there, but there's a really strong imbalance for female and male Sims on this one. We only got 1 male hairstyle and 7 for females, but other than that I really do actually like the cast on this one. I guess it's just a shame that the world was so flat and we didn't have more kind of fun activities like maybe rock climbing, so I'm going to put Outdoor Retreat in mid. Next up we have Spa Day. I actually use this one quite a lot in my gameplay. I am a little bit biased because I really enjoy spas in real life. The cast is pretty well done, it matches the theme. I don't think I would be judging this pack the same way before the refresh as I am now. I know a lot of things were kind of tweaked and added in since then. I like the fact that you can be self-employed as a yoga instructor or a massage therapist. I love the fact that the spas aren't rabbit holes. I feel like I would be rating this much lower if they were. It also comes with the high maintenance trait, which I think is quite funny, but for what it is, honestly, I really like this pack. I feel like it was well done, so I'm gonna put it up here in love it. Okay, next up we have Dine Out. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this pack. The gameplay part is actually quite fun. I like the fact that you can sit down with your Sims and choose what they want to eat and everything. I really love the fact that if you are making a restaurant in Build Buy, you can customize the menu, you can have themes based on different cultures or different gastronomy levels, and also be aware of the fact that any dining out experience takes way too long in sim hours. Normally when I take my Sims to the restaurant, I kind of have it in mind that they're going to be there all night, but because I enjoy the actual experience of taking them to the restaurant, this isn't a massive issue for me. One thing that's kind of annoying is if a Sim invites you to a restaurant that isn't in your household, you're still going to have to pay for them, and the fact that if you take a townie to a restaurant with you, they can't choose their own food, you have to choose it for them, which is a little bit boring. I feel like for Cass we could have had a few more fancy going out outfits, but they're mainly just functional outfits for the waiters and the chefs. The NPC's autonomy is a little bit annoying. Sometimes they take forever to bring you your food. The waiters do dump a lot of trash on the floor, even if there's bins around. Like I said earlier, this pack does need improvement, but I actually really enjoy the gameplay and I kind of like how it was implemented, so I'm going to put it up here and like it. I feel like that's probably a little bit of a controversial opinion. I did talk about the weaknesses of it and there is a lot to fix. Next, coming over to vampires. I feel like as far as occult packs go, this is probably the weakest one. A huge issue that I have with this pack is the fact that vampires and normal townies from other worlds kind of mesh together. You get like random townies walking around the vampire world and vampires coming too often into the normal worlds. This is super annoying and kind of immersion breaking for me. If I'm not doing a vampire playthrough, then I kind of don't want to use that element in my game, but it kind of forces itself there anyway. I think the way that this could have been implemented is like how it was done in Realm of Magic, where where there's a specific world that's nothing to do with the normal maps in The Sims 4 that you travel to in order to be around all of the magical things, and it kind of keeps a separation between the vampire aspect of your game and the rest of the worlds. Forgotten Hollow is a little bit boring, unfortunately. The cast is pretty bad in my opinion. I feel like I could have done some really cool items for this one in the vampire theme, but a lot of it feels a little bit too emo. For me, I'm going to put it in needs improvement. Coming next, we have Parenthood. I'm kind of mixed for the cast on this one. Some of it is quite okay and versatile, and some things are very ugly in my opinion. There's too many primary colours going on, but there are some items like these hairs here that I actually quite like and use a lot. The gameplay of this pack very much focuses on parenting from the parent's point of view and not so much on the child's point of view, and also being a parent to children and teens rather than being a parent in general. Obviously, when you're a parent, it doesn't stop when your child turns into an adult. I really do enjoy the character value mechanic where certain things will affect empathy and responsibility going into later stages of the Sims' lives. I think I would have liked more gameplay from the kids' point of view, and I think, to be honest, in general, high school years and get together and this pack should have probably all been one pack put together. So for Parenthood, I'm not crazy about it. I think I'll just put it in mid. Actually, I think I'm going to rectify Dine Out because looking at how it's higher than other packs, I feel like it needs to come down to at least mid just because of how broken it is. But it doesn't change the fact that I actually really like this pack. Next up, we have Jungle Adventure. The world of Selva Dorada was really well made, and I really enjoyed the little exploring quests that there was along the way. I honestly found myself really immersed, and I kept stopping to take photos with my Sims because it was just such a cool adventure and really good memories for them to bring back. The build buy is really good on this, but for Create a Sim, I am really not so keen. It's really limited in my opinion, but it still kind of fits the theme. I like the fact that the more specialised your Sim gets, the more chances you've got of succeeding the quests. Like the more they build up their knowledge and come prepared with the different items that they can bring will greatly affect the outcomes of the quest. I'm going to put it up here in like it. Next up we have Strangerville. The concept is really cool and I do enjoy the storyline aspect that they put into this. It has a lot of similarities to Stranger Things. In my opinion there wasn't enough cast items with this one, but the build buy was pretty good. The whole possessed sim thing is very interesting inside Strangerville, but when they start coming out into normal towns to interact with the townies, it's a little bit creepy. Personally haven't completed the storyline all the way to the end, but apparently it doesn't take very long, so maybe keep that in mind if it is something that would interest you. It's definitely a really cool concept for a pack, and it's something different if you want to kind of change it up a little bit. I think I'm going to put it in mid. Next up we have Realm of Magic. I actually really enjoy this pack, although I'm not an occult player, but I did try playing the whole Realm of Magic side of things and I was really intrigued. I really enjoy the fact that the world is separate and it doesn't kind of eat onto the rest of your gameplay if you're not playing with a magical household. The Magic Realm is really beautiful and well done in my opinion. I feel like the cast is pretty well done. I'm not mad on all of the items, but I think it would have been nice to see some more witchy items in this, like some gowns or some hats. I really like how your sim can take on the journey of learning different types of magic. There's up to 4 different types that they can learn, and it's not too easy either. The build buy on this one is really strong and fits the theme well, but also is usable outside of just Realm of Magic builds. I really enjoy this pack, despite the fact that I'm not an occult simmer, so I think I'm going to put it up here and like it. Next up we have Werewolves. The Create a Sim is pretty good. There's a lot of things that I actually really like and use on a frequent basis, although it's quite unbalanced again, unfortunately, for male versus female content. Concerning the werewolves themselves, it's obviously down to personal preference with design, but I personally find them a little bit creepy. They look more like people in costumes rather than standalone werewolves. I feel like maybe their heads are too small for their bodies. They look too human-like, and there's something very creepy about watching a human-shaped creature doing very weird animal animations. The build buy in this pack is very grungy and I really like it. I think it's really well done. As for the world, I really enjoy the fact that there's a massive lake that you can swim in, and I really like the little bar area. The whole pack system is really interesting. Depending on which pack you integrate, you'll have different morals and rules. Overall, the pack isn't mind-blowing, but I feel like it's a really solid game pack. There's lore and storylines there, which is a really nice touch. So overall, it's a really solid pack, especially if you like occult and werewolves. I'm going to put it up here in like it. So I feel like if you like Star Wars, why not? But this definitely doesn't feel like The Sims. I think I downloaded it once and saw that I didn't like it and pretty much deleted it from my game. But if you're a Star Wars fan, I can definitely see you enjoying this. It's got quite a structured quest system in it. It is well made for what it is, but this collaboration definitely feels a little bit random. And instead of a pack, I feel like this should have been a spin-off, much like The Sims Medieval was. It definitely feels like this pack wasn't made for the Sims community, but rather kind of just as a brand deal. I've never properly played with this pack just out of pure boredom and misunderstanding of the concept, so I'm going to put this one in no. Okay, so next up we have My Wedding Stories. I remember when they released this one, I was so hyped and I was so disappointed when it was released and super buggy. I really wanted to like this pack. This is famously the most broken pack that we have for The Sims 4, which is a shame because I really enjoy the theme of it. I love weddings in real life, and the kind of pretty Mediterranean island aspect of it is really appealing to me. I feel like weddings in The Sims are a little bit stressful because you kind of want everything to be done in the perfect order. If it goes weird and wrong and things aren't done in the right order, it can kind of ruin it completely. The world of Tartosa is absolutely gorgeous and I definitely use it for a lot of things. I've made a few restaurants there in my save file and nectar shops and things like that, but that's just what I've done with it, and I feel like Tartosan lots aren't amazing in my opinion. The cast is great. I really enjoy the fact that we've got a lot of different traditional representation from lots of different cultures. The dresses are really well made and really pretty. The makeup's pretty good as well. We did only get one male hairstyle, which is pretty bad, and the wedding interactions really do litter the social menu in my opinion. They could have been in a sub menu. If a Sim's got a wedding planned, we could have had wedding options, but it's just so chaotic and it's kind of like playing a game of roulette when you play a wedding. I think a lot of people will put it here, but I will just put it here because I know that with improvement it could be a really good pack. And lastly, in the game packs, we have Dream Home Decorator. Honestly, the CAS is really good. It's definitely up there in one of the packs that I use the most for CAS. The build buy items are great in my opinion. There's a lot of items that are quite reminiscent of the IKEA style. We did get a lot of build buy items in this one, and it would be weird if we didn't, to be honest, as it's kind of based around building. The career that comes with this one is quite interesting. Like technically, you could literally just make a really ugly room with a bunch of weird furniture as long as it was the right color or the right style, and the client would technically be happy, which is a little bit annoying. But if you do follow the brief and put the effort in to actually make something that's good, it can be a really fun feature. But I feel like it's just kind of up to the player to do it right. I'm going to put it up here in like it. I do quite enjoy this pack. So now coming over to the stuff packs, this is kind of where the tier list is going to start equaling out on the bottom a little bit. These ones normally retail at full price around $10, €10, £10, basically half the price of the game packs. They're mainly items and they can also have some sort of elements of gameplay in there. So first up we have luxury party stuff. The cast is quite mixed. There's a few items there that I kind of like, but most of it is quite ugly in my opinion. The graphics of the makeup don't actually look like The Sims. They look completely different. It's very strange. It doesn't match the game. And some of these items are truly awful in my opinion. And the build mode is very basic. The only thing that I like in here is that little fountain which you can have juice coming out of, which is like another word for alcohol in The Sims, or chocolate fountain, and a little buffet table here. But honestly for me this pack is not worth it at all. I feel like it's very dated and ugly. There's no gameplay elements in this one, and for me it's just really not worth it. This is one of my least favourite packs and it's just going to go no for me. Next up we have Perfect Patio. The style of this one is very modern. The Creator Sim stuff is very weak. I feel like it's very basic and there's not a lot here to justify the price again. In my opinion, this is a very incomplete pack. It could have been done much better and had at least a few more items. I'm going to put it down here in no. Next we're going to move on to cool kitchen stuff. Now the only way they could have meant cool in this case is for the ice cream, because the stuff that comes with this pack is definitely not cool. You get an ice cream machine and a few quite useful objects in build buy, but the style of it is very basic and kind of has that base game very cubey kind of effect. I don't like the cast with this one. It feels very out of date, and I just use the aprons out of this pretty much. I think you're more likely to get this pack for the build buy objects rather than the cast, but there's still not enough there to justify it. As there's several kitchen themed packs, this is definitely the weakest. So in my opinion you should just skip this one out. This little pumpkin here is spooky stuff. I do really like the items in this pack, but by principle this should not have been a standalone pack. This is stuff that should definitely have been included in seasons. If you don't like Halloween, obviously this one is a hard pass, but if you are looking for some more items to kind of spice up your Halloween, if you do make Halloween in The Sims, why not? I do really like the witch's hat and I do use this stuff if I do want to dress up my Sims at Halloween. But just as a principle, I can't put this any higher than no, because it should not have been a pack in my opinion. Moving on to movie hangout. Honestly, I would have seen this as more of a refresh for get together. It could have been integrated as like something you could do in a club, but I don't think watching movies justifies an entire pack. I know there's a bit of a theme forming here where I think that every single stuff pack doesn't deserve its own pack. For a lot of these, this is true. Not for all of them though. I feel like for the moment we're just talking about the worst ones. The build buy with this seems a little bit random. Doesn't feel very movie themed, but I suppose in of itself it's not too bad. The Creator Sim again feels very random. It didn't feel like it fit the theme at all. The stuff itself again is okay. Although I do enjoy making my Sims watch movies together and the little social interactions that come along with it, like discussing the movies and talking about the actors and things. I'm not sure where to put this one, to be honest. Just out of principle, I feel like it should go in no. Comparing it to some of the other stuff packs, it feels very light and not particularly worth it. So I'm not going to force myself, I'm just going to put it in no. Now this is where things start to look up a little bit for the stuff packs. We have Home Chef Hustle. This is a much better version in my opinion of cool kitchen stuff. I really like the stall and the fact that you can kind of set up anywhere and start a little sale, and the kitchen appliances are quite fun. Create a Sim is quite good, nothing mind-blowing I guess, but I do like the gameplay feature in this one, so I'm going to put it up here in like it. Next up, romantic garden stuff. For me, this is a little too abstract for a concept for an actual pack that you can buy. Don't get me wrong, it has really pretty build buy items. If you really enjoy making gardens and kind of want this Garden of Eden kind of theme, it could be really nice, but it's, in my opinion, one of the most overhyped stuff packs. I personally find the Create a Sim quite ugly. There's a nice hairstyle for children, but most of it feels very dated again. I feel like as Simmers, as a community, we're kind of numb to the idea of such small concepts being a pack, but when you think about it, it's really not enough. I feel like I would put this in no, but just because the build buy items are so pretty and can really elevate a garden, I think I might put it in mid. Next up, we have kids room stuff. If this and Parenthood were in the same pack together, it would be a much stronger standalone pack and it would be much higher in my ranking, although it really does fit the theme really well, and I do use these items a lot in my kids' bedrooms. The only reason I would suggest that you get this is if you are quite into family-oriented gameplay, because a lot of this isn't really in the base game. You don't really have much choice to decorate a child's room, unfortunately, but the Create a Sim is quite good. I'm going to put it up here in mid. Next up, we have backyard stuff. I feel like if you mix this in with perfect patio, it would be a much stronger pack, and I can't get over the fact that in The Sims 3 this would have all been in seasons. Something small that I actually really do like about this is the bird feeders. You can fill them up and it actually attracts birds onto it, which is quite nice for a garden. And to be fair, I really do like the wind chimes. You can actually hear them and you can get different types of noise, which is really nice, but most of this Create a Sim is really ugly. So just out of principle, again, I'm going to put this in no. I don't think it's worth your money unless you're really attached to one specific element in this pack. Next up, we have vintage glamour. So the main selling point for this pack was kind of the fact that you can sit at a vanity and apply makeup, but for me the most interesting aspect of this pack was the butler. You can now hire a butler just like you could in previous Sims games, and they will come and cook you food and do different chores around the house. I really enjoy this feature. Concerning the style, it's okay. I don't feel like it's vintage enough. It feels a little bit strange. There's a few items here that I like the long elegant robe for female Sims. This dress I'll sometimes use, and this watch is like the only watch that I use in Create a Sim. I don't particularly like the build stuff. I feel like the whole black and white aesthetic isn't necessarily very vintage. I think if it had better CAS, I'd probably put it in like or love. And if it didn't have the butler, I'd probably put it in no, but I feel like the butler brings it up to the mid level because it's such a fun element for gameplay. So next up, we have bowling night. So I don't really like the Create a Sim stuff. Obviously we've got bowling gloves and bowling shirts, which is okay, but the rest of it is kind of a little bit random and, in my opinion, quite ugly. Obviously the build buy stuff is basically stuff for a bowling alley. The gameplay's fine, I guess. I don't dislike the fact that my Sims can bowl. Obviously that's quite fun, but I feel like there could have been some really fun elements that they could have added, like maybe having your own bowling ball, kind of having your own signature color or design when you play bowling. The only functional item in this pack is the bowling alley itself, and I feel like it would have been really cool to be able to click on the shoe rack and change your Sim into some bowling shoes, for example. Maybe there could have been some sort of competition mechanic added. Also, something that I feel like would have really elevated this pack is if we could have had maybe like a pizza counter or some sort of fast food kiosk to kind of complete the bowling alley, or even some arcade games. I know a lot of bowling alleys include an arcade area. I'm not really sure where to put this one. I'm quite split between, no pun intended, I'm quite divided between mid and no, just because I enjoy the gameplay aspect of this and it's quite fun to have my Sims make a bowling club, for example. I've got to put it in no just because it isn't very strong, but obviously if you do want to add bowling to your game, this is an option. The fitness stuff pack, in my opinion, is really disappointing. It's one of my least favourite stuff packs altogether for The Sims. It does come with a rock climbing wall, but honestly, that doesn't really bring much. I never use it in my game. It's just basically reskins of what we have in the base game. So we've got a treadmill and one of those, I can't remember what they're called, but to do your arms on. We could have had like a step machine added in, or maybe a rowing machine. I feel like it was such a missed opportunity to not put some sort of fitness trainer career in this one. That would have made it really interesting. And the cast is just laughable on this one. We have barely anything there. We could have had like sports leggings and like little like sports bra tops for women. There's just so much opportunity missed with this one, and for me it's going to go in no. The toddler stuff pack is pretty decent. I actually really like all the items that we got with this. The creator sim items are really cute. I'd say if you like family oriented gameplay, this one is probably worth it. It also adds the Playdates event to the game where you can bring your toddlers around and mingle with each other, which is really cute. And build mode has quite a few little functional items as well, which is really nice. I do think I would have liked to see a few more items with this, but I do really like it. So I'm going to put it in like it up here. Laundry day isn't too bad. I feel like it accomplishes what it's set out to do. The actual mechanic and how it is implemented into the game is a little bit annoying. Sims often just dump piles of stinky clothes onto the floor. It could have been automated a little bit better so you don't have to manually wash your Sims clothes for them. I suppose it would have been nice to see some clothes that had a little bit too much use, or we could have even had some sort of stain system implemented into this one. For example, if a clumsy Sim is eaten, there's a chance that they might stain their clothes and have to wash them. I will actually say that this is probably the build stuff that I use the most out of any of the stuff packs. There's a lot of kind of wicker themed things like rugs and chairs. I quite like Laundry Day despite the fact that it's got quite annoying mechanics. I'm going to put it in mid. My First Pet stuff is a difficult one because it does contain a lot of items that require cats and dogs, which obviously isn't the point of an expansion pack. You shouldn't need one expansion pack to complete the other. This one definitely should have been a cats and dogs refresh. There's items in here for cats and dogs, although cats and dogs don't come with this pack. We only get little rodents in this one and no other pets like snakes or birds. That could have been a really cool opportunity to add those to the game. It's a bit scandalous that this exists outside of cats and dogs, and unless you really want some little rodents and stuff in your game, which I could understand, I just feel like out of principle this has to go in the bottom tier because it just shouldn't exist as a standalone. Next up, we have Moschino. This is a really weird one for me. We get the photographer career, which is the only redeeming thing in this whole pack. I just feel like if I was trying to represent my brand in a game, I probably would pick things that made my brand look good, and this pack definitely doesn't do that, unfortunately. There's one hairstyle that I will use and the rest I just don't touch at all. It's that sleek back long one right here. The build mode has some redeeming qualities. I absolutely love these windows right here, and I quite like the kind of camera paraphernalia. So we've got a little hanger here with some like a bounce and things and a little camera, but I don't really like the overall aesthetic style of this pack. I'm gonna have to put it in no just because the CAS is so awful, and the whole point of like a fashion brand collaboration is the CAS. Tiny Living has got a really interesting concept behind it, and I can kind of appreciate it from that aspect. It's definitely an interesting concept for a little bit more of a challenge in the game, especially if you're a builder. Personally, I probably won't get much use of it outside maybe one or two specific buildings in my save file where it will match the Sims personality. Maybe they want to live a little bit off grid and a little bit more minimalist, but it's not a pack that I'm gonna go out of my way to use a whole lot. I feel like this one would go really well with eco living. I do like the build buy. We did get quite a lot of nice things and that are quite versatile as well. Again, quite an IKEA kind of aesthetic. And the CAS is pretty average, I suppose. It's not that great. Just for the gameplay and the challenge aspect, I'm gonna put it up here in mid, even though I personally don't use it that much at all. I don't think I've ever tried to do the Tiny Living challenge, but it's a really interesting concept and I can appreciate how much of a challenge it might bring you if you are a builder. I'm really keen on nifty knitting, I've got to say. Not only can Sims build the skill of knitting now and create their own objects via a craft hobby, we also have the addition of Plopsy, which is basically Etsy. I really like the creator sim. You can make some really interesting quirky characters with these outfits. Also, I really like the fact that you can give these as gifts. It kind of changes up from like the book or a camera. This is a really good stuff pack if you have cottage living. I feel like it goes really hand in hand with that. Cross stitch and knitting go really well together. I feel like they're both really cozy indoor hobbies. I really like this pack. I'm going to put it up here. So Paranormal is a really popular stuff pack, and to be honest I can see why. We do get a different type of career in this one. We get the Ghost Hunter career, which is quite fun. It also brings back the iconic bone healder, and we have seance tables so your Sims can build that as a skill, which is actually really cool. I really love the CAS in this one. It doesn't necessarily fit the theme necessarily. I mean, the necklaces kind of do, they give very quirky vibes, but the rest of them are really versatile kind of summery clothes, or even like 70s style vintage hippie kind of vibe. I really like it. I also really love the build by stuff in this one. I use this little picture frame down here on so many elders' end tables near their bed. This hand is really good. I really like that. They got the seance table, the little ball here that's not actually functional, unfortunately. And just overall, I really enjoy this aesthetic. I do really like this one, and it's going to be the only stuff pack that goes on this top tier. And finally, we have the kits. These sell for about €5, $5, which is obviously a lot less than the others. Even at such a low price point, some of these are really worth it, and some of these are not even worth $5. So this is where the rating gets quite interesting. So Carnival Streetwear is a Create a Sim kit. So there's no real occasion for Carnival Streetwear in The Sims 4. There's no carnival event or anything. I suppose it kind of fits the theme well, but the icon for this is a little mask with feathers on it, and I feel like we could have at least had that in CAS. Some of the items are okay. I won't pretend that I don't use a lot of these. I'm going to put it up here in needs improvement, not because I particularly think that it actually needs improvement, but I would kind of not say to not buy it because it does what it sets out to do. But it's also not on the same level as like Get Famous or Dine Out. Bust the Dust is a weird one for me. Essentially, you pay $5 for 5 different hoovers that all do the same thing. So that comes down to $1 per hoover. The principle is okay, but it's a little undeveloped in my opinion. I feel like maybe this should have been integrated into some sort of housework pack along with laundry day, and houses seem to get too dirty too fast, which is kind of unrealistic and beats the point of this realism element in the game. I'm going to put it down here in no. Courtyard Oasis is a build kit, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's really well made. You don't get a huge amount of items, but the items that are there are really pretty. It's obviously very Moroccan inspired, and it's great that we have more cultural representation in the game. This could have been a really cool time to add in something functional like a hammam or a steam room. I think I'm going to put it up here and like it. Industrial Loft is a build kit, and I feel like we did get quite a lot of nice items in this one that definitely fit the theme really well. I use these a lot. It's really handy for when you're making more modern builds with an industrial twist. If this is an aesthetic that you like, then I would recommend getting this one. I'm going to put it up here and like it. Ancient Arrivals is my all-time favourite kit, I must say. It's really good. The clothes are versatile. It's got some really solid items that I use all the time on my Sims. If there's one kit that I recommend getting, it is this one. I'm going to put it up here and love it. It's the best kit. I couldn't recommend it more. Fashion Street seems like a little bit of a vague name for the theme of this one, but it definitely has a lot of inspiration from Middle Eastern countries and Western Asia. I really like the fact that we got henna in this one, and it's a very colourful pack. I like this a lot for my Sims, especially when I'm making Sims from those sorts of regions. It's really good. I was really excited for Blooming Rooms. I never thought that there was enough houseplants in the Sims base game, so it was a really exciting pack for me. You get 24 different plants in this one, which isn't bad at all. Overall, I do really like this one. So I have a few things to say about this modern menswear kit. I think the title is quite badly adapted for the actual content. The theme is more gender fluid than typically masculine, which isn't a problem in itself, of course. This is quite an issue in The Sims 4. A lot of Simmers kind of struggle to make masculine Sims because there's not a whole lot of choice. I feel like we could have done with a more generalised set of clothes in this one. Based on how little I actually use this pack and how it doesn't actually really fit the theme necessarily, I'm going to put it in mid. Editor's note, I'm actually going to change my review on this one and put it down in no. I just realised that it has that awful sweater with the armpit slits in it, and honestly I don't really use this kit at all, so I think it's only fair to all the other things I've put in no to put this one down there as well. Next up we have Decor to the Max. Now obviously this is a build kit based around maximalism. I don't dislike the idea of maximalism in The Sims, but I feel like it was a little bit poorly executed. I might use this in like a quirky artist or fashion designer's house, but that's about it. I personally don't think it's worth the money, so I'm going to put it down here in no. Moonlight Chic is pretty good. It's supposed to be based on modern Parisian style, which I'm really sorry The Sims team, but this is not Parisian style. I live in France, so I kind of have quite a good idea of what people are wearing in Paris, and to me this is more like Dua Lipa core. I don't think I've ever seen a French person wear sequins outside of like some extravagant party. Some of the items in here aren't too bad, like the coat I feel like would be quite representative of some sort of Parisian style. It's not a bad pack, but it definitely doesn't feel like it has any ties to Paris in any way. I'm going to put it up here in mid. Little Campers is a great kit if you ask me. I feel like it's just missing some sort of functional tent. I actually feel like this is a really good add-on for outdoor retreat if you want to take your kids camping, and I really like this little functional outdoor movie screen. It did what it set out to do. I'm going to put it up here and like it. First Fits has a lot of clothing for children. There's a lot of really neutral basics in here that are really versatile. I use them a whole lot in my games. Although the idea of the pack is really good, I'm not sure if we should really be having specific clothing based on age category. I think a lot of it should probably be in the base game, but as a kit itself, I do actually really like it, so I'm going to put it in like it. I think Desert Luxe is absolutely gorgeous. I would totally recommend it if you're into building and you kind of like neutral themes. I am kind of obsessed with this one, I must admit. I do use these in a lot of builds. I think one of my all-time favourite build buy items are these curtains, and the fact that you can have them any width with this little ledge that you can put between the beginning and the end curtain is fantastic. I can't see this one going anywhere else other than into the love it section. Pastel Pop is very cute. It has a very cute aesthetic. If you like this sort of aesthetic, the items are really well made and I recommend you go get it. And I personally think that if you have high school years, this is quite a good one to have in tandem with that. It's not particularly my aesthetic, but it's a well-made pack and it's pretty well executed, so I'm going to put it in like it. Everyday clutter seems like such a weird thing to have a whole entire kit dedicated to, but it was very much necessary if you asked me. I was super excited when they announced this one. These are all objects that I use all the time, so if you really enjoy decorating or want to give your builds a little bit more realism with a few extra details, I definitely recommend this one. I don't see myself decorating without this, so I'm going to put it in love it. The Simtimates collection is, in my opinion, really underrated. As a cast simmer, I obviously dedicate a lot of time to making outfits. I would probably say that this is one of my favourites, so I think I'm going to put it at the top. I know as a concept it's a little strange to just have bathroom clutter by itself. I think maybe it should have been included in the everyday clutter kit, but I can't deny that I use this a whole lot. Honestly, I really like it. I'm going to put it in like it just because I feel like it should have been part of the everyday clutter. Greenhouse Haven is pretty cute. I use it a lot. It really does the theme really well and I don't really have much to say about it other than that. I do wish some of the items were functional, but it doesn't really matter. It's an okay kit, so I'm going to put it in like it. I really like Basement Treasures. I feel like we don't have enough old themed things in The Sims 4. It's really good for cluttering up a space, especially like a basement or a loft. Again, this is one of those kits that I've definitely gotten my money's worth, but it's not mind-blowing, so I'm going to put it in like it. I feel like Country Kitchen is really underrated. I know that there's not really much in this kit, and to be honest, that is a little disappointing, but I think if you have cottage living, this is a really nice addition to kind of have in tandem with that. Even though I really do like the ones that are in this, I think it's just too lacking to go in like it, so I'm going to put it there. Grunge Revival is, again, one of my favourite kits. I feel like in comparison to the Goth Galore one that came out not too long ago, this one was so much better done. I use the stuff from this one all the time. I feel like there's some grungy things in there, but there's also more versatile ones that don't necessarily have to be on grungy Sims. So I'm going to put it here. This Book Nook kit is adorable. I actually really like this one. It's really cute. I feel like the furniture maybe could have done with being a little less blocky, but it definitely fits into a lot of different aesthetics. And I feel like the items are really well made in this one. So I'm going to put it up here. If you're a cast simmer like me and you prioritise using in-game content rather than custom content for a lot of things, then you won't underestimate this sort of pack. I feel like we've got a really good selection of items in this one, and we got the really cute little armband versions for children. I use these all the time. It's kind of like the equivalent of the Simtimates collection, but for swimwear. I think personally it's definitely worth it for this one. I'm going to put it up here. Another editor's note, I was so tired by this point, but I meant to put this in love it. I feel like the Modern Luxe kit is a good overall, although I'm not mad on this aesthetic. There's a bit too many thin gold details on a lot of the objects, but it's a good collection of items. One thing I don't really understand is the vinyl record player. It's very much vintage, but it's in the Modern Luxe kit. It doesn't really make that much sense if I'm being honest. But I definitely do use these items here. That wall art and the mirror are quite nice, and the plant I use quite a lot as well. You probably realised this before me, but I've just noticed that I got the icons for Desert Luxe and Modern Luxe mixed up. So I'm going to put Modern Luxe in Like It and Desert Luxe back up in Love It. Throwback Fit is another cast kit, and honestly I really enjoy the aesthetics of this one. I use it a lot in athletic outfits on my Sims. This is another kit that I absolutely love, so I'm going to put it up here. I'd be tempted to put it in Like It just because I don't know if it's that amazing, but I've definitely got my money's worth like 10 times over on this one. Obviously the free holiday update, I'm going to put it in Love It because it's free stuff. Who doesn't love free stuff? Which leaves us with the most recent 2 kits that we got. I did get early access on these 2 kits, and to be honest, I didn't feel excited enough for these to be my 2 first kits that I made early access content about. I kind of want to keep it real with you, and when I make early access content, I kind of want it to feel a bit more genuine, and for these things I didn't necessarily feel that inspired. I own this one because I got it gifted by EA, but I don't think that I would have bought this one if it was up to my own personal funds. Some of the stuff is okay, but I feel like it's very stereotypical goth. It would have been nice to see some more everyday goth items in here. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad pack, but I feel like it could have been done a little bit better. So I'm going to put Goth Galore in mid, which leaves us with the Castle Estate kit. I actively really enjoy castles in real life. There's something that fascinates me and I love visiting them. I feel like there was a lot of potential for this one, but unfortunately we only got things like wallpaper, flooring and a gargoyle and a few doors and windows. I would have really liked to see some sort of medieval or really old style furniture. Even a grand majestic fireplace would have been really nice to see. The things that are there I really love. I love the walls and I love the details that they've added in, but I feel like it's just so lacking in actual furniture. I kind of want to just put it here in mid. So there we go guys, we have ranked every single one of the 73 expansion packs for The Sims 4. I feel like mid and needs improvement are kind of the same category at the end of the day. A lot of these packs do need improvement if you ask me, but those 3 that are in needs improvement are kind of worse than the rest of them, but I didn't think it was fair to put them all in that category because some of them do offer a lot as well. This has gone on way too long. I think I've been filming for about 6 hours at this point. It's gotten dark as you can tell. I hope this was either fun for you to watch or has helped you narrow down a little bit what packs you are thinking of buying, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.